thought I'd sit in with you and let you know that Sporting Denver are going to take you to Hull and back. We're going to train it, we're going to test it, and we're also going to trust it. Yes, we are going to Hull and back. We're going to take our elite feet around the world in the next 50 minutes. We're going to drop in first in San Antonio, Texas, to meet our guest today on Sporting Denver, Neil Hull. Neil, welcome to the show, and thanks for dropping in on us. Appreciated, my friend.
Thanks, Richard. Welcome. Grateful to be here, and I hope you're all doing well in these times of troubles.
First question to you, Neil. What's the weather like there, my friend?
I put a thermometer up this morning on one of my palm trees outside by the pool. So not to make it snowing in your location, but it's about 92 degrees, I think, at the moment. So
I know you've got friends here anyway, so I assume you've already checked in on them and to see how many feet we have of snow here in Colorado, my friend.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to shoot straight on. What motivated you, Neil, to become a coach?
It's a great question. I think all my life I've been involved in sport, or I've been working through sport, and through going to school, through playing with friends socially, I eventually joined the army at 16 and tried to look for a vocation in that. It was something that I always wanted to do, always been part of teams, always wanted to be a bigger team. And I joined the Royal Engineers at 16, and we focused on a lot of athletics and sport. And as you may well know, the military is built on sport and sporting teams.
Sure.
Wars of tomorrow will be fought on the playing fields of today, and all this kind of stuff. And the idea just came through. It was a natural. You were realizing that every Saturday morning you got the morning off to play sport, and every Sunday afternoon Wednesday afternoon you got the afternoon off to play sport. And so when you were a player, it was great. But then you realized, I could be a coach as well. And how can I coach? And I like to teach. I like to be a teacher, and I like to be taught as well. And it sort of emanated from those areas there, to be honest with you, and just being in that environment and a constant environment of learning.
You touched on being in service in the military. On behalf of Sporting Denver and myself personally, thank you very much, Neil, for your service. It is appreciated and valued. Thank you, sir.
Well, cheers. I mean, it runs in the family. My wife as well. She did 25 years in the U.S. Army, and she's served her time as well. So I think it's a very valuable asset. Service in any walk of life, whether it's as we're finding now, the medical services are providing fantastic resources to all the people that need them. So we're all serving in one way or another. It's just one sometimes is dressed in green and one sometimes is dressed in blue.
We'll pass on our thanks to your good lady as well. What is her name, by the way, Neil?
Mary Jo, MJ. So she's
MJ.
Quality young lady.
Thank you for your service. It is appreciated. You mentioned the word asset, Neil, in that last description. What do you think your biggest asset is in delivering coaching sessions or programs?
My biggest asset through delivering, I'd like to say the ability to listen. I'd like to say the ability to remain player focus and need focus of the players as much as I can, or the people that I'm teaching. And I have this thing that I work through the university I work at and teach with coaching education. We have a philosophy, or I have a philosophy called the unseen hours. And I think it's the unseen hours that you put in that make you who you are. And nobody knows what you're doing until they know who you are. And so I really believe the unseen hours are the effect that make you that coach. the caring factor of it as well. I mean, we all fail sometimes. We lose players along the way, sadly. We gain players along the way. But I think the ability to listen and the ability to care. And that's not just caring about your players. I think it's caring about your coaches. It's caring about your trade, caring about your industry, caring about those around you. And you're not doing it to overtly show that. I think you're being humble in it, but it's part of your values and your message that you're trying to steer across.
You said about teaching. Can you give everybody a heads up on your current teaching status within the university system?
So I currently lecture at the University of Texas in San Antonio. I specialize in coaching education. I run 4 classes for UTSA. I run the coaching practicum, which is where we place students in the field in various coaching roles. It could be in soccer, basketball, mixed martial arts. And we work through and guide them through a mentorship program to present their practicum through the semester. And through this, they find out whether they enjoy it. It's better to get your feet wet for 3 months than to get trench foot for the rest of your life, I think.
Right.
So they find out whether they enjoy it, and we try and give them the greatest experience. It's kind of it's the top of their pyramid. We start that pyramid with what we call coaching theory and methodology, where we go through the different theories and ideas and methodologies, and we do a lot of studying on John Wooden there. John Wooden, as you know, was voted by ESPN the #1 coach in the last 100 years. Sure. And when we look through Wooden, he's character-based very much. He's not personality-based. And we try and take it to the transformational over the transactional type coaches through this system. I coach the Science of Soccer class, where we take them through various aspects of the modern game of soccer. I certify them all through the United Soccer Coaches, of whom I'm a National Staff Academy member and coach for United Soccer Coaches, and run Texas for those guys. And then a new course that we brought in this year, which I'm really humbled by, and the students that I have on that course are pretty hardcore, really. It's just coaching leadership, but it's the way we approach it. And we'll go through all the modern areas of transformational coaching that we try to hit, finding out the honest why of why you're there. I mean, we talk about Simon Sinek and go through him and all his ideas, but do we really know why we're trying to achieve something? For what reason? For what purpose? We go through various studyings of books. We go through Legacy, go through Switch, these kind of things, creating our own principles, our own coaching manifestos. And I believe it's the kind of course that sets them up as a coach or as a coaching leader in their environment. If you're a coach, you've been at university, you're going to know the Krebs cycle, you're going to know anatomy and physiology, but nobody really teaches you any craft. The actual coaching craft, or the people that we can model from, it's a tough gig. We're all going to know X's and O's. Steve Kerr came out recently talking about X's and O's, and it wasn't, he's got his ideas on coaching soccer. I know what I'm going to teach. You don't know what I'm going to teach in soccer, but the craft you're going to gain from it is the important factor, because we're all going to put the same 11 people on the field in a different way. And that's what diversifies us as a coach, I think, versus trying to do everything similar and the same. We've got to carry our own identity and carry our own ideas, or other people are responsible for our actions. And that doesn't make us a coach then, that just makes us a sheep. So, kind of thoughts.
So as you said earlier, those unseen hours that goes into the preparation of a session, a program, developing, for your university, those programs as well, Neil. Can you let us know what your unseen hours look like? You're really punching me one there, aren't you? We're mates. I need to know, Neil. So
I think it's what we do. Is what we do that nobody sees. They are the unseen hours. It's I have an academy here in San Antonio called the Pass Academy, and your players will come out to it and join it. They're not selling themselves. They're wanting more training. It's what they're doing that other people won't provide. Maybe you and I grew up playing football in the streets, or playing it in high school, or wherever we were at any opportunity. Sadly, here those opportunities, I can't say here, but in the modern era, those opportunities don't roll. You got a 4-lane highway outside your house. You can't go and play football in it. Right. So it's what you're doing when nobody's watching. And so you're going to go and take extra training here. You're going to go out on the field on your own and do something in this modern world of COVID. I mean, all these videos and all these accessibilities and everything that everybody's throwing it out there. I'm thinking, are you throwing it out there for your own self-worth, or are you throwing it out there because the players need it? And I think it's a question we have to ask ourselves. And that motivation is internal. And it's the internal athletes that will succeed. If you need that external motivation, then you need someone to drive and push you the whole time. And that's going to get you to the front door. It's not going to open the door for you. And it's the effort that you put in, the extra book you read, the extra inch you run, the extra lamppost you do on your interval training, the extra hill you choose that you don't need to choose. The ability to take that time when your athlete calls you after 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock on a Sunday night and talk to your athlete. What are you doing that someone isn't doing to try and achieve?
You mentioned the word book on the topic of coaching and those unseen hours. What was the last book you delved into, Neil?
Was the last complete one. I've got 3 others on the go at the moment.
I thought you would.
Yeah, I've got 3 others on the go, but yeah, Dare to Lead by Brené Brown. Phenomenal book. She shows daring greatly as well, about the ability to be vulnerable. I didn't know, but she comes from Houston, just down the road from us. But phenomenal book. And I picked the idea up from the University of Florida head coach at the convention. She was there presenting different aspects of trust factors and of values, etc., from the book. She presented it so well. It looked like a good challenge, and you pick it up and it works. And you have to read it and listen to it, or listen to it and read it a couple of times. But you're going to get those ideas, and I think then it's the unseen hours in taking what implements for you.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was listening to something yesterday. I think it was a podcast yesterday, and it was about you're going to take from it what you don't. You're going to take from it what you want. You're going to remove what you don't, and you're going to innovate the rest. And I think it was a Bruce Lee quote or something, but it's kind of came home, and I'll look and read this book. I'll watch Pep. I'll watch You Train, and I'll think, oh, I like that. That's nice, but that wouldn't work. But then I can step outside the environment, and I could transition what you're doing with a high-level soccer team to a youth team if I can adapt it correctly in the right environment. So, many ways.
Can you give me with your PASS Academy, which is I've read quite extensively on that and checked in with a few people, and it's held in very high esteem, Neil, with what you do there. With everything you bring to the table, how do you become unique with the PASS Academy, the elite feat? What makes it stand out above some of the others that we're aware of? What is unique about the PASS Academy, mate?
I think the unique factor that we have is its application, and a football is an 11v11 game of keep away, but we can train it in so many different ways. I think it's the ability to create repetition without boredom. When we want to teach something deliberately, and we do a lot of deliberate practice within our academy. When we want to teach something deliberately, we will innovate ideas and replicate ideas through our train it, test it, trust it model. And that model, we're doing the same things each week. We're hitting mastery each week. We're hitting pressure each week. We're hitting transition each week. But then through our model, we remove ourselves as coaches from the equation, and we let the players try and take over, the players to solve their problems. A lot of people will do that in the modern world, but following a guy called Mark Bennett, who we were in the army together, he created a system called PDS coaching, and we've, again, take what you want, remove what you don't, and innovate the rest. We use that a lot, and he talks about the UAEs, the unacceptables, the acceptables, and the exceptionals. And it's for us as coaches, through pass, our players choose those. We don't choose those. So the players will choose what's an acceptable level for them, and are they attaining it? What's an exceptional? What would success look like? How do we attain success? Because we don't know where we're going. How are we ever going to get there? So they have to define their own route of success. And then when we hit that success, they own it. And then we step it up, we take it outside the comfort zone, and we push it a little bit further. But it works through this methodology that, kind of returning back to the original question, is the methodology of train it, test it, trust it, that evolves us to be a little bit different, continually putting the players under pressure in very small group environments, and very sort of 2v2, 1v1, often up to 3v3 transitions, a lot of transition and that moment of transition, believing that I personally believe that moment of transition is what's going to advance you from other players.
So you've implemented train it, test it, trust it. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming it's been drafted up. You've implemented the session, train it. How does it work then from getting that feedback from the players to test it in the session and trust it? How does that feedback come back to you for you to adjust that?
Yeah, so we work it in 3 phases. We could work it in phases of 3 weeks, working in phases of 6 weeks. We work a week or a session or a period of time on train it. And as we grow that period of time on train it through the mastery, we're then going to test it. So, for example, let's take dribbling. Take dribbling out of the equation.
Okay.
2 weeks on dribbling. And we'll work through our first week on just teaching different methods, different ideas to dribble, their decision when to choose to dribble or when to choose not to dribble. And we'll work through a train it phase, and we'll train the decision-making process through the complete hour and through the complete system. But then within that system, we'll also train it, then we'll test it, and then we'll trust it. So we're continually giving it back to the players within the session and giving them the ownership of the activity within the session. And from there, each session incrementally gets more difficult. So that first week we're training dribbling, we'll start the next session the following week where we left off. And it's for the players to understand where they left off. It's the process of recall. And are they just there attending, or are they there playing? And in classes, they're there playing. And the feedback it'll give to us is, are they learning? And so if they can come back where they were the previous week, and we can start with very, very little coach direction. As the 3 weeks goes, the coach direction becomes less and less and less, and the player ownership becomes more and more and more.
Sure.
So we're kind of sliding scale. As in the first week, we're a little bit more deliberate, a little bit tougher. Then it steps out, and then the coach is less involved than he was before, but he'll still manage, not control the session. I still say he'll manage the session, but the players try and lead that session, and that's kind of the way we evolve the system. You
work with the United Soccer Coaches as a national staff coach. What was your role exactly there, Neil, in the United Coaches?
Start off with the NSCAA, the National Soccer Coaches Association of America, and in 2015, I believe, we rotate our name to United Soccer Coaches. But I went over in '96. I was qualifications from the FA and bits and pieces. But you realise that we are a different culture from England,
sure.
A different nature of teaching and a different nature of player. So I started coaching here, and I'm realising that I'm not good enough. I don't know how Americans learn, and so how can I achieve this? So I went back to university, got another degree in kinesiology this time. And I'm thinking, while I'm doing this, I'm studying soccer. I'm coaching soccer with a club here in San Antonio called the Internationals at the time. They're now called the Lions.
Right.
And I've got to learn how Americans learn. I can't stay in my culture and my identity if I'm going to teach people from a different culture. So I started going on courses with the USSF, with the NSCAA, and I found the NSCAA to be the more educational-based coach. They were the more caring course in a way, I must say. And I started off with those guys doing their national diploma, advanced national and premier. And I came back I was living in DC at the time, came back from DC to San Antonio, and the opportunity arose to become the state director. So I became state director in about 2005, I think, for the NSCAA as it was. And that grew and kept on going through. And we ran a fantastic organization here in the state. I think we have coached over about 8,500 coaches between now and then, qualified and certified out between sort of 2005 to the modern day. And it just grew, and eventually I was selected by the NSCAA to be one of the national coaches of the year, and I got invited onto the national staff, and it grew from there. Then Ian took over the ship from Jeff, and I was invited out to do some of the conventions, and they worked very well. I was very humbled to do it, and you got to get your message over. But to me, it wasn't the fact that you're working the convention; it was the conversations after that you had with these coaches. Yeah, often in the bar, generally.
Yeah,
starting early and finishing late, and it got a better conversation as the night went on.
And some of that, Neil, is like the unseen work. Those isn't it? Right?
Yeah, well, the after hours. I mean, I keep telling my wife I'm off for some and she's saying, "How fluid are they going to be?" And I'm going to say, "Well, quite."
Yeah, we're in trouble now, Neil.
Yeah, quite fluid on lockdown. And so I started doing the bits and pieces of the conventions, and I got the opportunity to represent the NSCAA or the United Soccer Coaches in overseas in the Cayman Islands and places, and coach for them over there, and work with the national teams and bits and pieces in those areas. And it's just the opening of doors and the connect. I mean, we talk about coaching is connecting. I don't necessarily think it's X's and O's so much. It's more of that connection, and the X's and O's will come along. But the United Soccer Coach has been very good to me. I've enjoyed them. Ian Barker leads a really good ship there, I believe. Yeah, the convention that we put out works really well, and it's just the continual growth, and I wouldn't say networking, but just the connection and liaison of people. And here in San Antonio, 98% of all the coaches and the clubs respect it and believe in it, and I think it advances many of the coaches and all the respective and separate clubs that we have here as well. I think it's just a great foundation and an educational resource for them.
Neil, congratulations, my friend. I did know anyway, but thank you for sharing that. You know, being a coach of the year is that's no mean feat, my friend. So you're on the right track. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, what was it that I'm trying to think, John Candy said in Cool Runnings before they're about to take the final, you know, if you weren't good enough before the gold medal, you'll definitely not be good enough afterwards.
Quality.
Medals and awards are for everybody around you to celebrate. They're not, they're not necessarily for you. But it's nice recognition. It was great recognition. And the people that you're up against, tough ones.
Yeah. You mentioned during that time on being part of the national staff coach, you're also involved in the technical side of it as well, Neil, on with the technical structure committee as well. What was the difference between the two roles there, mate?
I think the staff coach side, the academy staff coach side of it is more on the I use two big university words here, the andragogy side of it, the on the field, the actual hands-on coaching, the ability to do your X's and O's and teaching your small groups and get all those ideas out at the various levels of classes and various levels of courses. Whereas the national committee is more pedagogy, the actual science behind the courses and why we're doing the courses and how we're going to implement new courses. I think I started on that in 2013 or something. Since we've been United Soccer Coaches, I think it's gone into more of a central foundation within the organisation, but we're still engaged, we're still consulted, we're still spoken to about it, all the guys through the committees and bits and pieces. But yeah, I think the technical committee is more about the growth and development of courses and how we can continually evaluate everything that we do and grow from advanced success and grow from failure, maybe, but to work it through. And then the actual National Academy side of it is very much hands-on field work, the teaching of coaches and getting the message out to the if we're in Texas, you might be out in Midland, out in the middle of nowhere, or you might be one next time in Houston in a massive conurbation. But just getting it out so that the coaches are taking on board new ideas. But even then, after that, it's not a case of turn up and learn. It's the unseen hours again. It's getting back with those coaches and, are you doing okay? Do you need any more support? Do you need any help? Do you need me to come down and visit you? How are you doing? It's the follow-up factor, the caring factor. It's not the turn up, do the course and run away factor. That's kind of dangerous.
Do you think there's actually enough of that, that reconnect from maybe doing a course, a coaching education course? Do you think there's enough coming back to not necessarily, do it again, but put your arm around the shoulder of a coach and give them that support? Do you think we could be doing a little bit more on that side of it?
I think there could be more of a mentorship side, and I think if through our club organisations, we run a course called the Director of Coaches Diploma, and it goes into this a lot. Now, a lot of clubs are going to have a Director of Coaching.
Right.
And whom is that? Is that just the best coach in the club that coaches 4 extra teams so they get paid more money because they're the best one out there?
Right.
Or is it actually somebody who leads the club? Is it somebody who cares about their coaches, cares about the players, takes on the responsibility of evaluations, of assessments, of accountability? Accountability is accounting for one's ability. And so are these leaders doing that? And I believe in the main they are.
Yeah.
But then who's mentoring these leaders through? I'm not saying it's me. I'm not saying anything of that kind of stuff. But who's mentoring these leaders, or who do they have as a mentor for them? And I know we have a joint friend in Keith Meyer, who I met him at a Director of Coaching Diploma 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And we hit off as friends, never met him before. And suddenly he's a great guy to know, and he's a listener, and he's someone that will help you grow. He'll water your roots without you even knowing it. And we need these mentors to talk up to, and we need those mentors that we can reflect from above down below to the people below us as well. And I really think that's a positive action to have, and a positive friend to have as well.
You've touched on Mr. Goldust himself. He's going to throw a question at you anyway, mate, which is, what information would you elicit from a player to know he or she requires those individual challenges outside the group, Neil?
Oh, I think it all depends on how you define elicit. I'm going to watch the player.
Yeah.
I'm going to have the player self-reflect upon their game and how they see their game initially. I'm going to ask them various questions to challenge them. I'm going to see where they're comfortable and when they're uncomfortable. But a lot of it is going to come from their successes.
Right.
I'm going to try and build on. I'm going to take the 80-20 rule out into the equation. I'm going to work on 80% of my time. I'm going to work on 20% of what they do well, in the theory that all boats float higher on a rising tide. So right. I'm going to find out what they do well, and I'm going to grow that. And then I'm going to add little bits. If they're all, I don't like to say that you have a weak foot. I like to say your other foot. Because as soon as I put that thought in your head, okay, we're going to work on your weak foot today, automatically now we're feeding the negative wolf, aren't we? And once we're doing that, that player's going, I don't want to work on my weak foot. I've got to shoot with my strong foot. It's the only way I can put it in the back of the net. So I've got to kind of take on their successes and let them witness their own success. Because I think that self-efficacy that's going to come into it is huge in a player, because they're doubting themselves. They're to lead, they're greatly. They're doubting themselves massively. But if you can show them to be a success and you can grow them as being a success, and in the main, be as positive as you can. And if you are going to be negative, you know what? Frame it in a way that can challenge them, not frame it in a way that can destroy them.
Sure.
And I think that's half of our battle as coaches, is we give that instant feedback without thinking about that feedback. Or parents will see perception of it, and you'll say something to the player. I think Keith even said this. It's not how it's said, it's how it's heard. It's not how it's seen, it's how it's written. Or it's not how it's how it's seen. And it's, you know, that perception. And I can be talking to a player, and a player can be having the greatest time in the world. He can go home with his parent, and his parent can steer questions and guide questions to that player to get the answer out of that player that the parent wants to hear, because the parent perceived that we weren't doing very well, or another player, or another idea.
Right. You've put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard, and you've written some an author. Can you enlighten us what papers you've written and in what concept and sort of what contact you've had from that?
I've written 2 books. I've covered 2 books from published through iBooks. One was more of a top 10 activities type book to go through and explain in depth the reasons why you're going to possibly use these activities. I think they're all transition activities.
Right.
And then another was a compilation of publishings. So one of the biggest soccer journals in the nation here is United Soccer Coaches Coaching Journal, or Soccer Journal. And I've been published in that, honestly, I was just going to say numerous times. I don't know, over the years, 20, 30 times, whatever it might be.
Right.
And I sort of started reading back on old papers and old publishings. And you can publish in other areas, other soccer journals and blogs and bits and pieces. And I was starting to see a line of thought, a common line of thought through a lot of them. And I thought, how can I work that line of thought to grow? And it's almost like your philosophy. And I think a lot of it, as we get older, as we get younger, we have this philosophy and we have these ideas. And I think they're good ideas, but I think they're stolen. I don't think they're really us. But as you start to get a little bit more experienced, you start to find out what works, what doesn't work, your ideas, your theories. You'll find out different ways, different angles to approach them.
Right.
And you sort of stick, again, 80-20, you stick to what works. And if it doesn't, you'll try and adapt it. And so a lot of papers have gone over, and I mean, one that I really enjoy, and I really enjoy writing, and I read up and I try to implement and philosophize on it, or implement it through coaching, even in 2v2, is I think what I call the time man. And it's as simple as the player who's in time and space. But when we coach it on the field, you know, what are you looking for? Yes, we're looking to penetrate. Yes, we're looking to rebuild, but we're also looking to reset. And when you're under pressure, or your back's facing the goal, or your head's down, you need to not only create time for yourself to recover, you need to create time for your team to recover. So we work through this idea called the time man. And all it is dropping it deep to the single pivot or the double pivot. And that pivot could be anywhere on the field, from the goalkeeper to the 6 to the 8. It could be anywhere. But you're looking to drop it and play it back out through the time man. And it's quite complex in its idea, but it's very simple in its execution. And then if you're seeing your team getting in trouble, or you need to put advice on the field during a game, and we all will do it. I mean, I'm not talking about joysticking, but we're gonna offer ideas onto the field, and you can transfer a whole 2, 3, 4 training sessions into 2 words.
Right.
And you just pop on the field. Look, where's your time man? Play your time man. And they'll see that, they'll look up, and then suddenly they've reset. And as they reset, we've got a whole new game growing. And I think I think we spoke off camera on this about my journey hasn't been soccer. My journey's been outside. I've coached soccer, I've coached basketball, I've coached volleyball, I've coached mountaineering, I've coached special forces, I've coached international whitewater kayaking. I've done all sorts. And it's just like, at the moment, the majority of modern coaches, or the strength in modern coaches, is saying to players, do not specialize. go out and play basketball, go out and play soccer, go out and play baseball, go ice skating, definitely do gymnastics. And when you're maybe 14, 15, cool, roll into your chosen sport, take what you want. But up until that point, learn from all these other areas of how ice hockey might teach you to sidestep a lot better than another sport. And I think that's the same in coaching. If we just myopically coach one sport, that's all we end up seeing. And our skills and craft are evolved through the one sport. But if you go into all these different sports, and you look, Pep does it through Barcelona. He did the water polo. He's bringing water polo people. He's bringing all these different kinds of people. We look at Gareth Southgate. Gareth Southgate no longer really, if you follow him, he no longer follows football. He's going through basketball teams. He's going through all the other large or small invasion sports and coming across. We took on, I'm trying to think of these, Clive Woodward. Clive Woodward came into the English FA from the rugby. Plus the ideas of how to come through. And I think we as coaches, we valuably need to cross over our sporting and our coaching education to understand different roles in our teams.
What in pen to paper, fingers to the laptop, out in the trenches, coaching, delivering in the classrooms, teaching, multi-sports. Neil, what has over those many years, what has been your personal biggest challenge involved in those sporting environments?
Confidence. I think confidence and being able to show vulnerability through that confidence, knowing that you're not the be all and end all in anything and you're still learning. Thank John Wooden, when you're through learning, you're through.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's that confidence. I mean, you're going to, here I'm with you, but I'm with many other people possibly. Your confidence is going to be defined in so many different ways. And people are going to look at you and say, well, you're confident, you can do this, you can do. But I've then got to put myself into a position where I might not be so confident.
Right.
And I think confidence personally, I think if I had to choose a value or quality or something, and I don't want to bluff it. I really don't want to be the person that's trying to be something they're not. Authentic is another word there, but I think confidence.
So, touching on that then, Neil, how did you feel? I know how I did when I first went out and did that session. What was how were you feeling when you first went out there, mate? I mean, probably studied for like 3 days to do a 45 minutes. How did you feel walking out there that first time, mate?
Right, you want honesty and authenticity?
Come on.
Right, so I live that session regularly. So just a little bit of background. 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, presented in Chicago with the United Soccer Coaches on playing on the X. And the support, the YouTube is on my YouTube channel of this session, and here we have the session here. And through Pass, I've got a Pass Academy YouTube channel, which you can get loads of our bits and pieces off of, all our training sessions and stuff like that. But I presented this session that you're seeing here, and we started with some ball mastery. We advanced the ball mastery, and we worked it. And I have a really good friend of mine. I have a couple of great friends of mine that coach alongside me. Coach Brian Davis, who runs a club called Alamo City, that's soon to become the Surf here in San Antonio.
Okay, yeah.
Another really good friend of mine that coaches in the high school world called Barcelona. So I took this session and we practiced it and we worked through it, and I had them assess me and them evaluate me and go through bits and pieces on areas we could work it. And just like you say, that 45 minutes, the planning of it maybe took 3 hours. And then I ran that session with my academy guys and girls. And then I ran it purposely with people I just didn't know. And
right.
I wanted to see what it was like. So we got it and we were comfortable. We were good. Well, I thought we were good. And so it turns up on the day and we're out there and I'm watching the session before me, and I think it was someone like Shellis Hyman was on in front of me. And he's got these 15-year-old, 16-year-old boys out there. And I'm talking to Brian. I'm saying, Brian, we're gonna kill this. This is going to be a pretty comfortable session with these 15-year-olds. And he's like, yeah, they're good. They're technical. We can really work through this. We can really like polish the idea rather than grow the idea. Because at these conventions and things, you have got no idea of the players you're going to get. And so I got the 15-year-old boys afterwards, and I'm chatting to them and saying, do you understand this? And we went through the whiteboard and we visualized it. We went through the whole session. And then one of the administrators of the convention came up to me and he said, the guy on the other field, he's not comfortable with the players he's got. He wants your players. And I'm like, really? Why? And at that point, I realized possibly being coach of the year once upon a time didn't cut much ice. So I said, okay, fine, give me what you got. And along came these 13-year-old girls from the Chicago Fire, who turned out to be fantastic. And they were fantastic in the way that they were raw, and they just wanted to get better and wanted to listen. And so we gave them a little brief on where we were going, and that kind of was the spanner that was thrown at us, the wrench that was thrown at us. And now Brian and I are looking at each other, and I said, bro, we'll just go out there and do what we do. And so we worked on the theory, and I like, when I present on a base like this, I like to do a 2-coach presentation. Whereas one coach, which was in this case it was Brian, he'd actually do the majority of the coaching on the field. And then all I would be the compere of the field, the facilitator. So I'd explain the reasons why he's doing things, what's happening now in the session, where we're going to advance it, what we would do if this happened, actions on, etc., philosophy, methodologies, all this kind of good stuff. And so we presented that way. And the guy came out, introduced me. Hi, this is Neil, blah, 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 blah. Round of applause. We had like, I don't know, 600-700 people there, round of applause. Great. And like the butterflies had gone. Someone said to me, says, you get butterflies, always teach them to fly in formation and they'll fly away. And they did. And Brian passed me this ball. I think it was Brian that passed me the ball. And I went to trap it and it went straight under my foot and rolled away.
Been there, mate.
And he's kept that video and he's made a GIF of that video. And every time I ball something up or I do something wrong, he just like sends me that picture. And it's like quality. It's living with me permanently. And that was like the moment. It's like, oh, here we go. And it's kind of like the reset point. It was the point, just pick it up and be yourself now and move on. And the session, I thought the session went really well. The girls played really well. The coaches did great. And the session evolved. We got the philosophy, which is that you said a little while ago, what is our philosophy through pass? And we play a lot on what we call the X. We do a lot of dealing with boxes through a methodology that we have called exchange and occupy. So we're continually taking a right wing and rolling the right wing, let's say an 11, rolling the 11 into the 10's position, and the 10 will exchange with the 11. And we're working on these X runs where people will cross over themselves and screen run, rotate hips, rotate eyes. And from that, we create split passes all over the field. So if you learn your timing, your distribution, your movement, and they learn the decision-making process, we can break lines so easy through angled runs. And that's a big part of what we do at Pass. It's a box-type system, not rondo necessarily, but it's a very active decision-making process system. And we continually break lines against the flow of play. So if we direct the flow of play going off from right to left, the defense shifts right to left, and then we reverse the play immediately. We have openings that it's like a knife through butter. It really is. And when it gets right, the players can see it, and they're all jumping up in joy and seeing what they're doing. It's really quite pleasant.
Neil, you're extremely passionate, of course, about the game, the whole game.
And nothing but the game.
I'm going to throw at you, mate. Out of everything that you do, from education to writing to designing, the unseen hours, what's your favourite bit, mate? What's the best bit that you like doing in your coaching, teaching profession?
Favourite bit. I think seeing the success in other people. I've had recently from the coaching education, the coaching and the playing. I've been in the game now 30 odd years over here in the US kind of thing, or maybe not quite that long, or maybe long. I've now have players that are coming back as coaches.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing their evolving and their involvement and their belief in the system and their belief in what we've done with them coming back around and through, and their trust in myself and the people that we work with. I think it's not my definition of success, but it's one of my biggest smiles. Outside the players achieving their little milestones, inch pebbles, milestones, whatever you want to call it, the players will achieve those the whole time. And that's kind of if I'm shaping the path, that's kind of the little wins that you get along the way.
Yeah.
I think the biggest part of success for me would be to see the coaches that are coming back, that have been through paths, or the effect and greatness that they're now having on other people. Through past, I've probably had 30 coaches. A lot of them are stuck tight and stuck close. Others will take on information, grow and go, or grow and glow even, and then move on. But they've not really moved on. They're now helping other players in the same guise. And if we did it right and we transform them right, then great. If we're not going to win every time, but if they're out there and they're transacting, then you know what, that's what they want to be. It's not for us to control them. But I think it's in the return of players and the growth in that success. If I'm honest about it, I really do. Yeah.
Most rewarding to see that happen.
Yeah.
You've probably started with them as a player, seen them grow as a player. They've reached their level, their standard of play, and evolved into coaching using the methodologies that you've implemented them in as a player. Yeah.
I mean, what in one of my classes, their final exam, if they're watching this, they're going to know what their final exam is. So you're watching, kids, all right? You ready? The final exam in one of my classes is they have to write their coaching obituary and figure that one out. So now they've been with me for 3 months. They've been learning coaching and bits and pieces or leadership.
Right. I like that.
Now it's their final exam, and they can't fail it unless they just write, "Here lies Neil Hull, 1966 to 2020." That's not going to.
Don't do that.
But, they've got to write their coaching obituary. And I think that can tell me more about them and who they are, or their journey. And I think it's the journey, because we're all on this journey to match up to actually what they're good at. I don't want to know what they're great and good at. I want to know whom else they're going to make great and good.
I can tell you now, in the short period of time that we've actually talked at length, which is for today only, my friend, even though we've exchanged a few things, what I get from listening to you is you give so much accountability, is one of the words you used, responsibility for that player, and in your delivery on the education side, for that coach as well, Neil, to actually be allowed to take ownership of their own development as a player or developing into a coach. And I've personally never heard that so much been pushed right at me. Your methodology with what you have said seems to be a full return, not only on the player but on the coach themselves. That's what I've taken away from our 45-minute talk here. Like everyone that's on the show, Neil, I've got about 300. We'll have to do some unseen hours somewhere, maybe.
I've got a ball open, that one.
Discuss at a later time, but I can't let you leave without touching on our Quickfire 5 questions. Which I'm going to throw at you right now. I've just got them over here, my friend. They're quite easy. There's a couple that hopefully get it racing for you, Neil. So straightforward one, mate. Who's your favourite team?
Chelsea. And Chelsea reserves.
Okay. Charlie Cook, right?
Yeah, he's been one of my mentors for a long time. He's sadly the Peter Bonetti who passed away at the weekend as well.
Yes, respects to Peter and his family. Hey, female team.
I'd have to say Chelsea ladies, really. But if I'm going US style of things, I'd say the Dash.
Just Dash, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, for the last decade, Neil, we've had like Messi, Ronaldo. They're the obvious questions. You see it written, you see it spoken. Messi or Ronaldo. The transition now over that past decade. Who do you see as the next, maybe what we're talking about for the future decade, a player or a comparison between, two players? Who do you see to be on their level coming through when Messi and Ronaldo question has gone?
Like the 18, 19-year-old level, it's gonna be tight. I mean, I'd really enjoy. I mean, I'm blue anyway, aren't I? So I really enjoy Eden Hazard, although he hasn't performed as well at Real Madrid as he did.
Okay,
that's about the players around you. I think Mason Mount is coming on quite nicely as a real youngster. I'm not surprisingly, I'm not seeing that many coming through Arsenal these days. I'm going to have to stick with my blue chain, I'm afraid. I'm going to go for Mason Mount or Mason Mount or Abrahams. I'm going to go down those routes.
I'll run with you on Mason Mount, Neil, because we had him on loan at Derby. So I'll run with that.
Well. Right.
And we had Frank as well, but you took Frank back. So there you go, mate.
I used to watch Frank train at Gidea Park doing his shuttles, and I never knew who he was. I read his biography, and I was out there playing field hockey at the time, and he was in the corner of Gidea Park training, and I suddenly read his biography, and he was the guy that was in the corner of Gidea Park training, and I never knew.
Amazing.
Small ball.
Amazing.
There you go.
Who's your best ever Chelsea player then, mate?
Peter Osgood. That was a quick one, wasn't it? Yeah, the king of Stamford Bridge. Charlie Cook was up there with him. Charlie Cook, Crystal Palace, Chelsea. Peter Osgood, Chelsea, Southampton. But yeah, Peter Osgood's first shirt I ever had was a number 9 on the back. I was never really a striker. I was more of a sweeper kind of player. But Peter Osgood was just watching him inside, outside people and finish at Leeds and stuff like that. It was just phenomenal. Growing up in that environment with that heavy ball, and then the pitches that we were playing on, the big mud pitches, and you still go through. Yeah, he's maybe not one of the best players. He got a couple of caps for England and stuff, but to me, he was the epitome of it, really.
Mr. Chelsea.
But, yeah, and then Frank comes into the equation as well.
Oh, yeah.
But you got to stay blue.
But you're sticking with Ozzy, right?
Yeah, Osgood, Peter Osgood. If I have to give my best player of all time, if somebody I want to go out and have a drink with, be Peter Osgood.
If you could implement anything of your choice in coach education, what would you put into it? What would you think is the most important thing for implementing a structure in that coach education programs?
Player feedback. I believe coaches do not give players enough quality feedback. A PDF form with a drop-down menu is not quality feedback. They should be evaluating their players. This is in the club systems. I know it happens at university a lot more, and I've got a friend of mine at UTSA, Coach Pittman, Derek Pittman, that does this a lot. But we should be having more individual meetings with your players, getting to understand and know your players. Your relationship with your players should be far better. And I think the fact that in these clubs we're allowed to coach 4 teams or 3 teams, and then you also got a day job, you can't get to know anybody. You just turn up, coach, and leave. Your passion, your caring isn't there. I'd almost turn around and say, just like the model they're trying to roll in UEFA, is you can coach a maximum of 2 teams. then maybe you might actually care for your players a little bit more and understand the needs and the wants and the welfare of your players. But I think the evaluation of your players is a way forward. And too many of these clubs that we're in around that I work through and work with, they'll evaluate you on a negative feedback loop. And if you're going into tryouts in May, they'll evaluate you in April. And I think that's more down to the character of the coaches than anything else. And I'm not trying to put anybody down in any way, but you got to be honest in this world. And I think the evaluation of players and the feedback to players is the strength that we could add.
That's very interesting. Yes, full agreement on that one. The last question, mate, and we haven't got any pictures on it or anything from Mr. Spielberg, our producer, because nobody knows the questions I ever ask, mate. So this is for one that will go on the Facebook Sporting Denver website at a later date and people can go Google it. What is the worst kit you've ever seen, mate?
It's got to be the pink Barcelona kit.
All right.
It's either the pink Barcelona kit. I'm thinking there was a Millwall kit back in the early 80s that was like you'd had 15 beers and a couple of shots afterwards. I'm thinking it might have been Millwall. But I think the pink Barcelona one kind of got me a little bit. And then the Scotland, I think, came out and played in pink as well with their national team. And I'm thinking, how do you get pink out of Scotland?
Right.
But that you probably do quite easily. How do you get pink out of Scotland? I think the Scottish national team kit playing in pink. I can understand, maybe if I'm looking at it, Barcelona, maybe pink had part to do with UNICEF and things like that. Great. Yeah. Let's go for the Scottish national team pink kit. That might be the worst one.
Right. So, everybody, answer on postcard there to Neil Hall. Can't give us a address there. Leave me well out of that one. Thank you for that. Hey, do you want to just say hi to your two daughters, my friend?
Yeah, I'd like to say, first of all, say hello to everybody out there. That I hope you're all doing well in this kind of situation that we're in. I've got family in South Africa, family in England, family here. My two daughters, my firstborn is called Brittany, Britain with a Y. So I won in that one. And then you might be able to guess the name of my second daughter. Her name's Chelsea, and I kind of won in that one. We called her Chelsea Joe. I wanted to call her Chelsea Blue, but my wife won the Joe over the Blue. But that, and then my little boxer dog that I've got that's slowly growing older quickly, her name's Tadger. It's the Scottish connection.
Right. Because you get out close, mate.
Yeah, for those that know. I'd like to say thank you to those guys. If you like what you heard or you'd like to know more, please feel free to connect with me through my website, www.pass1on1, or I'm on Twitter, kindly through Keith Mayer at Verbal Vitamins. When I first met Keith, he was talking to me about verbal vitamins, and I thought, wow, it's a pretty cool handle to have. So I stole that immediately and didn't tell him. Cool. Life's about stealing things, or should I say, liberating. And then we're on Instagram at Pass_Academy or Facebook at Pass Soccer Training. So we're on those areas, and please, more than happy to help you in support, grow in any way that I can.
Neil, I want to say a big thank you from myself, Sporting Denver, all our crew. You're a rock star, mate. And some of the ideas, a lot of the ideas, most of the ideas you've shared with us today, and also part of your life story is greatly appreciated, my friend. Best wishes to you and your family, and you take care. Thank you so much, Neil. It is greatly appreciated, my friend.
But thank you very much. Thank you, Sporting Denver, and hopefully we'll be back on the fields very soon.
Thanks very much, Neil.